What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on a Thursday. Today, we're going to discuss the Blazers' first big draft workout as they worked out multiple first-round projected prospects today. And in the NBA, we got one conference finals done, and one is still ongoing as the Knicks force a Game 6, beating the Pacers 111-94 today. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about the Chris Paul rumor. The Blazers, we got a rumor, and it's kind of out of left field. It's about Chris Paul from Sam Amico. And we're also going to talk about a potential trade down possibility for your Portland Trail Blazers in this year's NBA draft. What's going on, everybody? Hopefully you guys are having a good week. Eric, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Tori? How you doing? I know you're a little sick, under the weather, powering through, right?
A little bit.
And then, just so everyone knows, it's Tori's birthday tomorrow, so everyone wish him a happy birthday in chat.
Yeah, beautiful timing. Beautiful timing for me to feel under the weather. I'm hoping tomorrow it's better. Every year or so I get this cold where I get like one day it's really, really bad sore throat, like one evening. And then the next day it's gone, but the chest is like on fire, and then I'm better. So I'm hoping tomorrow it's better because I'm going down to Depot Bay. I'm visiting the Oregon coast like I'm Jeremy Grant. Okay? Not like I'm Damian Lillard, like I'm Jeremy Grant. So hopefully things are better tomorrow. But I'm excited to stream. And I'm excited to like not think about the way the Mariners just lost. That was brutal. Shout out to my Mariners fans out there. And I'm happy to talk about a couple rumors that pertain to the Blazers. I'm happy to talk about draft workouts. It's draft workout season, so I'm looking forward to that. Anyway.
I'm excited that we have a couple of topics that are slightly different than the normal topics.
Yeah. Am I laggy, or is it just on Eric's end, chat?
So I was just typing a message to you, Tori. I'm crystal clear on Streamlabs.
Hold on. I don't know why. Let me disconnect you and then rejoin. We'll try and get this figured out. All right. So hopefully we can fix this problem. Yeah, I don't know. That surprised me too. I didn't know why he was lagging like that. Unfortunately, we don't have Skype anymore, so we have to work through new problems. Luckily, the lag is gone that we used to experience. But hopefully we can get Eric crystal clear today. While I wait on him to rejoin, chat, let me know how your week's going. And yeah, we're gonna have a little slow start to this show. All right, are we better? Not really.
Nope.
Not really. So yeah, I think it's
community leaderboard.
Whoa, that's wild. Yeah, I think it's on your end. Eric. So hopefully it clears itself up. We'll do our best. Just a rough day, man. A rough day. Anyway, I have no idea what this community leaderboard thing is either. By the way. So
it's working 100% normal on Streamlabs. I don't know.
Well, I think your own camera feed is not being patched through the internet. It's just being relayed back to you, so it's not necessarily going to lag. But like since I'm on the receiving end, then it'll lag. So anyway, I guess leave a comment in the chat if you want to be at the top of the leaderboard. Whatever this thing is. Shout out to the letter O. He's number 1 apparently. It looks like a Kings logo next to your name. I was really confused for a second. We got Tristan as number 2 and Insidious Suite as number 3. Yeah, anyway. Let's jump into... You can pick the topic. Well, let's talk about the playoffs. We normally start with the playoffs. We will get this out of the way. The Thunder did what I expected them to do to the Timberwolves. They win 4-1. I predicted them winning in 5. I didn't think the Timberwolves could score enough to keep up with them. It turns out that was not the case. I was kicking myself yesterday, Eric, because I just knew the Thunder were going to blow them out, just like they blew out Denver in Game 7 at home. The Thunder repeatedly blow out opponents at home. It's a pretty good bet. And they were like 8-point favorites or something like that going into that game. And I was kicking myself not placing some money on the spread line for the Thunder because I felt like I knew it was going to be a blowout. They got the Timberwolves' best shot in Game 4, still won that game by 2 in Minnesota, and at that point the series was done, and they absolutely eviscerate the Timberwolves in Game 5.
Yeah, boring game. Minnesota definitely did not show out as I was hoping to this season. I was hoping they would. And OKC's really freaking good, man. So, they're going to be tough to beat, and they're going to be tough to beat for years to come, unfortunately.
Yep. Really unfortunate, man, because this team is going to be... I don't know. Is this team going to be a dynasty? They're certainly set up to be a dynasty, and I hope that it doesn't start this year. I hope whoever comes out of the East beats them because they're definitely winning multiple championships in the next decade, and I hate to say it, but all the future picks they have, all the young talent they have, their ability to find cheap young role players, they're perfectly set up to deal with the harsher CBA when it comes to spending teams. That the CBA, the new CBA, what I like about it is it's designed to create some turnover at the top of the league and create some parity, and I think it's done that, but it's going to be interesting to see which wins out, the Thunder or parity, because I think the Thunder is parity's most formidable foe over the next decade or so.
You know what's weird to me about the Timberwolves?
What's that?
In particular, Anthony Edwards. Do you remember when he was on the Olympic team and they had like their practices or whatever, and he was asked some question about who the number one option was, and he said it was him.
Yeah.
And he was all like super cocky, arrogant, like I'm the best of the best type. And now he's answering those questions like, oh, I'm not the face of the franchise or face of the league or whatever. And I don't know, it just seems like he's kind of like he's still aggressively arrogant, I guess, but like it doesn't seem like he strongly believes that as much as he did just a year ago.
Yeah, it's really weird. Real quick, do you want to try... We can keep the collab cam. Do you want to try calling on something else and seeing if the audio is clearer?
Sure.
All right. What do you want to call on? Microsoft Teams? Chat, you get to watch us problem solve in real time. Or do we want to do let's do a Google Meet. I'll just send you No, I can send you a Teams link. Anyway. This short break is brought to you by the Minnesota Timberwolves downfall. Do you think the Timberwolves should be like aggressive for KD while I load up this link?
For KD, I don't know. I don't think that necessarily solves the problem. I think they need more of a dependable point guard / ball handler / creator versus necessarily just like a scorer.
Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you're better. So all of a sudden you're better. The software heard us talking about switching to a different software. They're like, no, we'll fix it. So I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it's Thunder win. Let's talk about the more fun bracket, which is the East. You got the Pacers, Knicks. The Pacers go up 3-1. They had won 6 road games in a row, 3 against the Cavs. I think it was 1 against the Bucks, 3 against the Cavs, and then 2 against the Knicks. Games 1 and 2. Of course, they had miraculous comebacks in all of those series. They could not stage a comeback today as the Knicks dominate them and control this game from start to finish. Indiana never led, and the Knicks stay alive, forcing Game 6 back to Indiana, back to Indianapolis. We'll see if the Pacers can defend home court. I'm going to ask you a very ESPN-type question, Eric. Who has more pressure on them right now? Is it the Knicks because, of course, it's do or die, or is it the Pacers because if they don't defend home court in Game 6, they're on the verge of choking a series and they have to go back to Madison Square Garden in a Game 7?
I think it's definitely the Pacers. Doesn't mean that they won't win this game, of course, but to me, when you go up 3-1, everyone just assumes the series is over, except for maybe a few diehard optimists. But the Knicks were left for dead, and they have nothing to lose. If they lose this series, people have known for a few days now that they're likely going to lose the series. So I think if the Pacers lose this next one, then the pucker factor gets really tight, and if it goes back to New York, like you said, the Pacers have won a lot of road games this playoffs, but I wouldn't want to play an MSG in a Game 7. So I think the pressure now is clearly back on the Pacers.
Yeah, I think the Pacers will either win by double digits or they'll lose Game 6. I feel like it's not going to be a close Pacers win. They're either going to come out hitting a bunch of threes like they did to Cleveland and just dominate the Knicks, where their offense is clicking and that arena is rocking, or they lose. I don't know. I feel like it's either or. Chat, give your score prediction for Pacers-Knicks in the live chat for Game 6, which I believe, I've not checked this, but I believe it's on Saturday?
Yeah, it should be Saturday.
Yeah, because they've been doing every other. Yeah, so Saturday, 5 p.m. Shout out to the ESPN autoplay ad. Sometimes I'll be on my computer, after a stream or just, late at night, and I'll go to ESPN, I'll hear an autoplay ad, and it literally makes me jump. It's literally a jump scare. But yeah, Knicks, Pacers. Pacers are 3.5-point favorites. I don't know what to expect from this game. Maybe the Knicks figured something out in Game 5, but of course they're playing at home. It seemed like the type of letdown game for the Pacers that they were bound to have at some point. But yeah, I'm rooting for the Pacers. I would love to see Pacers Thunder in the finals. Of course, we'll cover that. Let's move on. Let's talk about... We got one of three topics. Eric, I'll let you choose which you want to start with.
Let's start with the workouts today.
Alrighty. So the Portland Trail Blazers had a meaningful workout today. It wasn't a workout for who's going to be on the Rip City remix next year. It was a workout of guys that they might draft at 11. And Hanson Yang. Although he might rise into the... And Eric's gone. Derek is gone. Yang might rise into the first round. You got Rasheer Fleming, Jace Richardson, Asa Newell, Liam McNeely. My one typo for today is his name. And Will Riley. Now, Will Riley has fallen down draft boards. Fleming, some people have him going lottery. Some people have him going late first. Jace Richardson is kind of his draft range is probably 14 to 22-ish. Although I think Richardson would make a lot of sense in Orlando, and they have the 16th pick. Of course, you have Liam McNeely. I don't know what his draft value is at this point. It feels like he might be the slider on draft day and fall out of the first round potentially, although with some of the names going back to school, that's going to be very, very unlikely. Or he could still go lottery, just a team banking on the prospect that he was coming into college. And then you got, Will Riley. His draft stock has fallen to the second round. He had some lottery buzz earlier in the year, but 6'8", can handle a little bit, can pass, can shoot. Those are the type of guys that teams aren't afraid to take higher than consensus, and I wouldn't rule him out as a guy that could rise back into the middle part of the first round. So, Eric, your thoughts on these prospects, your thoughts on the workouts today?
Yeah, I was stoked when I saw the list for today. Even when you say like Will Riley and Hanson Yang won't be the 11th pick, it's still I those are two names that I think are really intriguing. Not necessarily for the Blazers, just in the draft process in general. And yeah, Rasheer Fleming, uh, absolute beast. Hopefully, I don't see any way his draft stock is in the 20s like some mocks have him. So like he's gonna rise up in this process, I believe. And we'll see how far he rises up. Um, and I was just listening to the interviews afterwards, right before we came on. Um, I know we're all kind of down on Asian Newell right now, but I did like his kind of mindset, what he had to say and stuff. So not necessarily. I don't think necessarily he should be the 11th pick or anything, but I do like the way he approached these workouts in the game of basketball and stuff like that. McNeely, I'd be disappointed if we took at 11. That would be a clear sign we're just desperately looking for shooting and not really that's like our only concern. So I feel like that would be a little bit of a reach. And Jace, while he's a good player, measure kind of small, and I don't know how well a 6-foot guard fits into our plans right now, especially if we don't move anyone like we talked about last stream. So really good prospects in terms of this draft, but I think it's pretty much just Rasheer Fleming as in consideration for the number 11 pick or what should be out of this group.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Fleming is probably not the guy I'd take at 11 for the Blazers at this point in time, but some of those other names I assume will be coming in future workouts. I will say this, I do feel like Blazer fans are falling in love with Fleming. Maybe a little too much. Maybe a little too much. I like him. He's a seemingly safe pick, but I mean, I don't really know if there's any like legitimate upside there beyond just being a solid starter. Which is fine, I guess, if that's what you're looking for out of the 11th pick. But I would not mind the Blazers swinging for the fences, even if it's for a riskier prospect. We've talked about how the Blazers need more upside on this roster, and I go back and forth between they should draft a high floor guy and a high ceiling guy. And I think there's a couple guys at 11 that I think are both. I think guys that have sneaky ceilings, like a Nick Clifford, like a Cedric Coward. Fleming, I don't think has that level of ceiling, but of course it's just projections. Maybe he can learn to put the ball on the floor. Maybe he can learn how to create his own shot. But he's a safe 3-and-D guy that can play multiple positions and probably guard multiple positions. I don't know how well he's going to be defending NBA guards out on the perimeter. He can certainly move, though, so I would expect him to be a versatile defender, and that's a very valuable asset on the team. It's just, the 3-point shot, he shot 40% last year, but the 2 years before that at St. Joe's was noticeably worse, so it's one of those things where sometimes it's tough to project shooting coming into the league. Is he going to continue that improvement that he showed in college, or maybe did he overachieve a little bit last year and also a deeper NBA three-point line? Some guys struggle to adjust to that, and some guys are fine. So that's always something that you have to wonder with guys shooting the three ball is, sometimes you see guys that shoot the three ball well in college and they just can't make it work from a deeper three-point line. So I like Fleming. He's not the guy I'd take at 11. If the Blazers took him at 11, I wouldn't mind it. I would not be upset with it. It's just funny to see on Twitter, our guy 503 is banging the drum for Rasheer Fleming right now. And there's the polls we're doing in chat. We've done a couple over the past couple of weeks, and all the polls is just Rasheer Fleming. And listen, I would vote Rasheer Fleming in this poll, but I'm looking forward to working out some other draft prospects and then doing this poll with maybe more formidable opponents.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Do you believe in defensive playmaking upside?
I mean, like, that's a thing. I'm confused by the question because yeah, it's a thing. Like,
Because I'm curious how, if we had a legit player with his size that could switch on to guards, I feel like when you match him up with like Denny and Tamani and stuff and what they're already doing here, that would be pretty formidable in terms of if he projected. Let's just say he's like a slightly less version of Bam or something on the defensive end, similar size,
that's
like
that's still pretty bold, as a
yeah,
guy that's a defensive player that your talks.
yeah. I mean, he wasn't even on the all defensive team, but that's another subject.
I mean, prior years, he's gotten a lot of
But
buzz,
I'm
but
just saying, like, if you had a guy with his size that was switchable and a versatile defender that could guard 1 through 5, like he said he wants to be able to do. Um, is that worth like the changing defensive scheme wise that you could do with that? Um, is that worth maybe a little bit of not being able to create on offense? Like, what's the trade off there? Like, how if you just had like a guy like, let's say Cedric Howard was able to put the ball on the floor, but and he's like a decent defender, but not like a game changing defender. Like, how would you stack those two up then?
I mean, I would take Coward because I think he has higher upside, and I think he has a similar floor, and he's also pretty good defensively, but more of a wing. I kind of feel like the Blazers need to find a backup three that can shoot, and I think Coward will be able to defend 1 through 4. I trust him a little bit more defensively on the perimeter. It's tough with a guy like Fleming, bigger guys getting through screens. We see it all the time with Jeremy Grant. Like, will he really be able to get through NBA screens against super quick guards if that's his matchup? I don't know. We're also getting to the point where, like, if we, dissect interviews and stuff, like, yeah, it's good to hear him say he wants to be able to guard 1 to 5, but I would expect any prospect to want to be able to guard every position. The question is, can he? I'm not sure. He definitely has a lot of upside on that end. It's like, basically, if you draft him, though, to me, it's like there's no chance you get the next SGA. There's no chance you get the next Book, right? Players that were drafted in that range. So it's like, would you rather get a guy who you hope can maybe be a little better version of prime Robert Covington, who was a defensive menace and a 37-38% three-point shooter? We're talking about his pre-Blazer days. He kind of fell off a little bit coming to Portland. Or would you rather take a small shot at trying to find the next SGA or Book and maybe ending up with the next, I don't know, Jerome Robinson? That's a question that has really no right answer. It's just a matter of preference.
Yeah. But to me, those guys are usually, well, I mean, not always, I guess, but a lot of them are guards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Was there a forward drafted between 10 and 14 in the past 10 years that was factors into that? I don't know.
I'm sure there was, but
Chat, you can let us know. But I mean, like, yeah, Donovan Mitchell was a guard, right? But Bam Adebayo was taken in the late lottery, so we just brought him up, and he's a power forward center type. So that's the thing with Coward is, like, he's a guard, but he's big enough to easily play the 3. And I mean, Jalen Williams plays the 3 or 4, right? Like, so there's another example where coming into the league is like, oh, he has guard skills, but he has insane measurements, and his measurements are like equal to Cedric Coward's. So Jalen Johnson was taken with the 20th pick, and he had some guard skills and just didn't really get to show it off at Duke. Was kind of inconsistent at Duke, but he was a projected top 10 pick before that season, then fell to 20, and then proved why he was a projected top 10 pick. So it's just like, do you want to take that chance at trying to find one of those guys? It's going to be really difficult at 11. You're more likely to strike out, but you're swinging for the fences. Or is it just, okay, we want to try and get a single, maybe a double?
Yeah. Well, so Bam is always, I always go back to Bam, and that's because he showed absolutely zero playmaking or ability to put the ball on the floor or anything like that. And then he gets to the NBA and shows that shows that ability. It's weird how sometimes players do that, but it's like I would have never, no one could have seen the type of player. Like he's a completely different player in the NBA than he was in college.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just say this. I don't really want the Blazers to draft any of the prospects that they worked out today at 11, but if they trade down, we're going to talk about that in a second. I think a lot of these names would be potentially intriguing players to bring in, assuming the Blazers got another asset out of it. But at this point, I am sold on Coward at 11. Taylor Packer in chat says, I'm still seeing mocks have Coward low. Seems like public opinion is ahead of him, ahead of the mocks with him, which is interesting. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see where he lands. He just feels like a high floor, sneaky upside, still can be maybe a home run type of guy. And that is, I don't know, I think a worthy bet because he also fills a clear-cut need for the Blazers, which is a knockdown three-point shooter at a backup three that can slide down to the 2, play up to the 4. He also fits from a smart passer standpoint where he can fit in on a team that moves the ball because the Blazers have some guys that should be able to play and flow pretty well if Chauncey Billups ever decides to have them actually freaking flow. And then he's a good defender. So with Fleming, it's like the passing is not as impressive as like a guy like Coward's. So yeah, for the Blazers, I'd have Fleming, probably 14th, 15th on my board right now. But I understand why people like him because it's the same things I said earlier in the season. Like he has the size to probably play the 5, and then he moves really well and shoots the 3 ball well and is athletic. And that would be a good change of pace option behind Donovan Clingan.
According to Asian Newell, the Blazers are a up-tempo run and gun team, right? So
yeah.
They
seem like they should be, man. But
I know.
I mean, but you watch the way the Pacers run. You watch the way the Pacers run, and it's like Chauncey should be saving so much of that film. But that's the thing is like there's possessions where Siakam leaks out and they inbound quick to Halliburton. He gets it ahead to Siakam and he can make a play off the dribble and get to the rim and score. Whereas if you don't have that type of guy, it's harder. So with Denny's that type of guy as well. Hopefully Tamani can continue to progress to be that guy. That would just be my thing with Fleming is like, could he, catch the ball in the open court and actually get to the rim and finish consistently? Could he handle the ball at all in transition? Like, does he have NBA level ball skills? Because he is an older prospect too. So it's not like you have as much time to develop that as some one and done prospects.
Yeah. Did you see the thing about Xavier Lee making $6 million?
Yeah.
So part of that is he got some shoe deal or something. But the example they used was Portland at 11.
Yeah.
And Portland at 11, the person's going to be making $5.7 million this next year. And Xavier Lee's going to make $6 million.
Yeah, Xavier Lee's an outlier case, I will say, just because of the shoe deal and he's Asian basketball player, right? So like he has a lot of fans. I don't know like where exactly he's from, so I don't want to misspeak, but he has a lot of fans. So,
but as you move down the draft, like obviously that number gets smaller than $5.7 million that Blazers are going to pay for the 11th pick. So this post I saw brought up a point that like maybe they have to reform it a little bit with NIL if they want some of these names to come out. I don't think it
I mean,
matters. Like,
well, here's the thing. At some point, you're just going to have all these guys coming into the draft as like seniors instead of sophomores. At some point, you'll be past the COVID year BS, right? So that's the thing, is there's going to be a little dip in the second round, but I think the second round long term is actually going to be stronger once all these guys that are returning to school enter the draft. And like, we're going to be very familiar with prospects next year. Like LeBaron Philon goes back to school, right? Alex Caravan goes back to school. I'm forgetting some of the other names, but you had a lot of guys go back to school.
my guy Yoxel.
Your guy Yoxel goes back to school. Like, at some point, these guys are going to be in the draft, whether it's this year or next year, as well as all the good one and done. So there's going to be a dip now while these guys, with NIL still being new, these guys profiting off it, like Xavier Lee is at Florida. Boogie Fland also went to Florida. You got Thomas Houck there, right? You had
Condon went back.
Condon went back?
Yeah.
Oh, that team's going to be so much fun next year, man.
They're so loaded.
They got Fland, Lee, Houck, Condon. I'm blanking on
I
someone.
think they have another forward that's really good too.
Shinyen Lu. How do you say his name? I forget. But like, I assume he went back. He was one of the first workouts for the Blazers.
But
yeah, they're going to be good.
So my point in all that was a guy like Cedric Coward who was going to go to Duke, right? Like, to me, even though the mock drafts maybe haven't caught up yet, I'm pretty sure he got some feedback that he was going at least at the end of the lottery. Otherwise, he might have made the decision to play out a year healthy, show what he can do, and all that kind of stuff. So meanwhile, you see like Yoxel going to Michigan, because maybe he wasn't getting that same feedback that Coward was getting.
Yeah.
So and by the way, Coward is a year older than Fleming.
Yeah.
You were talking about Fleming being old or something, but
yeah.
He's only 20.
I like Coward's passing and ball skills more. I think they're much further along.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it's not like you're taking a younger prospect.
No, but like, there's a thing to be said about a guy being able to be the guy in the number one in college, even if it's at a lower level, because those are good reps where you're the number one option on the opposing team's game plan. And that's the thing with Coward, is like, he's been the guy. I wish he played more at Washington State, but at Eastern Washington, Willamette Willamette's not D1, so I don't know how good those reps were, but he's running pick and roll, and he's finding teammates, he's passing, he's distributing, he's handling the ball a lot. Whereas like Fleming, even though he played for a smaller school at St. Joe's, is just like, yeah, shoot and catch and shoot three, and then attack closeouts. And maybe once in a while do something off the dribble, where he's not getting the experience like making these reads. So, it's obviously a much higher level at the NBA level, trying to make some of these reads, and some guys adjust, some guys don't. But I do think, some of the guys that you've seen at some smaller colleges, right? We can throw it all the way back to Dame, but we can talk about guys like Jalen Williams, who went to Santa Clara, where they have the ball in their hands a lot. They're making reads as the number one guy. In some cases, it leads to a lot better success than expected at the NBA level, because they know how to make reads that other prospects that might be more highly regarded don't. And that's why you see, a Jalen Brunson go in the second round as an older prospect, but ends up being a superstar. You see a Jimmy Butler go at the end of the first round. He went to a JUCO before going to Marquette, right? You see some of these older prospects that have some ball skills, but and a lot of them, interestingly enough, are also good defenders, and you see them come into the league and surprise people. So who's the next guy? I feel like this draft is going to have a guy like that, and I feel like it's either going to be Coward, or it's going to be a Nick Clifford, or it's going to be somebody. And that's where it's like, I understand Fleming, but also I'd want to take a chance at maybe getting very, very lucky in finding that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. I'm totally fine with Coward or Fleming at this point. Like,
Where do you think Coward will go? Like, if you had to predict it today, I need to finally get the board with the post-it notes.
I think it depends on, obviously, if we keep 11. I really think he's in play for us at 11.
Yeah, right now all the buzz is Yegor Demon because that's who Gavoni keeps mocking to us. But yeah, man, I mean, I could see Cronin liking him.
Mm-hmm.
Do it all, defensive, good size, good measurables, solid athlete, can pass, smart player, right? Seems like a good dude. I listened to one of his interviews. I think he interviewed well. He does feel kind of like a Portland pick, where either Portland's going to swing for the fences with a guy like Demon, or they're going to go safe with like a Fleming or a Neat Clifford or a Coward. If I had to bet, one of those four guys would be the pick. Now, I'm not sold on that, of course, but I think there's a greater chance that one of those four guys is the pick at 11 than anybody else.
I absolutely agree. I think that's very logical. What I keep coming back to is with Fleming, they've talked ad nauseum in recent press conferences and stuff about just having that size and length, and he's the exact measurables of the type of, like, those are the type of measurables they're looking for. And I know Coward's long for a guard / small forward, but Fleming just seems like their dream, like, body measurables, like like that seems like if you could encapsulate what they're looking for in a prospect in terms of just pure combine measurable numbers, I think it would spit out Rasheer Fleming. That doesn't mean they're going to take him or whatever.
I mean, it depends on the position.
Yeah, but like they've wanted those, like, kind of long rangy guys that are 6'9" or taller and have super long arms and stuff like that. So
I don't know, like, Coward might be able to play a little point guard one day. On NBA.com, he's listed as a point guard, shooting guard. His standing reach is higher than Yegor Demon's, by the way. Like, it's insane. Yegor Demon is 3 inches taller, but Coward's wingspan is 4 inches longer. So, if you think he can play some point guard, especially without knowing the guard situation, like maybe the Blazers move off Anthony, maybe they would need a backup guard that could play some point guard. And if they want a player with size at that position, next to somebody like Sharp, somebody that could guard, the 2 guard and just hide Sharp on the worst defender, then that's Coward. But he also easily has enough size to play the 3 and fills the need of shooting. So, yeah, like this stream, I'm just selling myself more and more on Coward. I think I'm going to go down with the ship. I'm not a coward to be a Coward fan for the Blazers, but they better work him out. Like, they better work him out. I'll be excited when they work him out.
Maybe it's a secret workout, though.
Yeah, we had a lot of those last year.
They don't want anyone to know about.
So weird. Why do the workouts have to be secret? Like, why'd they have to secretly work out Klingon? Was the team going to be like... The thing is, people found out anyways. So other front offices knew, but they were trying to trick other front offices into like, oh, they didn't even work out Klingon. They don't like him. That means he's not that good. That means we're going to pass on him at 6 or 5. Like, I don't understand the logic behind secret workouts.
I don't remember it being secret last year.
Well, no, it was like secretive, and then everybody found out. So it's like, yeah, they worked him out. It was... Yeah. I think, and then like an interview was posted, but I don't know. Like, there's some weird stuff. I forget exactly the details, but they were kind of secretive. I think about Zach Edey's workout too, if I recall correctly. So,
yeah, I think with Klingon, it was just more they were trying to temper their interest in him to the point where they were going to have to overpay to move up to get him, and they just got super lucky that he fell to 7 and didn't have to. That never even came into play.
Yeah, well, yeah, because Charlotte drafted Salon, which he's a project. He's a project. We'll see if they can develop him. I don't feel like Charlotte's the best place for him to develop. I just feel like Charlotte is a black hole where unless you're like Brandon Miller level good, your career just goes there to die. I don't know. I feel like that's not completely fair because I don't even know like who I would apply that to, but it just seems like a bad situation for a number of prospects. And part of that is like Miles Bridges and LaMelo. Just not being a fan of those guys.
To be fair to them, as of last offseason, they have a new front office, new ownership, all that kind of stuff after Jordan left. So, like, it could be different into the future. They did come out. I don't know if this was just an insider report or if they actually said this, but apparently the Hornets organization is going to be patient and is willing to go for younger prospects still and wants to rebuild the right way. It doesn't want to like speed it up at all.
Gotcha. I'm gonna do a new chat poll. Let's just do this chat poll. Fleming, Coward, Yegor, and who was the other name there that I threw in? Neek Clifford. I feel like people wouldn't vote Neek Clifford, though. So I want to come up with a name for this poll who people would vote. So chat, let me know the fourth name to put in this poll. And we can do this poll again in like 2 weeks and see how your guys' opinions change. Oh, Carter Bryant. Yeah, we can throw Carter Bryant in there because he has some fans for sure. Hanson Yang. Nah. All right. That's the other guy. I said out of those 4 prospects, Carter Bryant is the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
like, dude, he reminds me a lot of Kamara.
Well, he said he patterned his game after him.
Yeah, but like, I never made that connection before, and he said that, and then I watched his tape. I'm like, I can see it, like the way he defends, but then also just some of his drives and like sneaky little playmaking passes, and that's the thing. If you're Portland, do you want hopefully a second Kamara, or would you rather have a guy that's like a little different but can also defend, that has like more offensive game?
Carter's another one of those guys. He played with a guy who also worked out for us recently, Caleb Love, and you just, I don't know, man. We talked about this. I forgot what stream it was, but like, how much was he allowed to show what he can do when he had those guards just monopolizing the ball all the time?
Yeah. Look at this poll. I talked people down off Rasheer Fleming.
No, there's a lot of Coward fans, man.
Yeah.
You acting like that was kind of a hot take, but it
I didn't. I still expected Fleming to be number 1, so I'm surprised, but I guess I'm not in touch with our viewer base. Miles Martin asks, if Queen falls to 11, do you have to pick him? Not the best fit on this team, but has the potential to become a really valuable asset down the road. You absolutely do not have to pick him. I've soured on him a bit. I probably would not pick him. I just feel like Portland, he's not a good fit for Portland, and I don't really feel like Portland's a good fit for him.
Yeah, I would take 3 out of the 4 on that list. I'd have a tough time between Demon and Queen maybe, but the other 3 I would definitely take over him.
Yeah, like I can the thing is if you're going upside with Demon, you got to factor Queen in, like, because he's just a pure upside pick. So at that point, you have to consider him. But like if you're going for somebody that's a good fit and can shoot and play defense, he doesn't factor into that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, not a great shooter, not a great defender. Obviously talented skill set offensively, but that seems to be kind of the opposite of what we need right now. Like, I could see them taking Colmar Boyles over Queen if that was if it came down to like those two. Not that it would, because one of those four guys has to be on the board pretty much. But in my opinion, I think they lean towards someone with a little better defensive presence than offensive upside if it came down to like those two guys.
Yeah. Queen's tough for me because when I saw him at the McDonald's All-America game, I'm like, this dude looks amazing. Before he went to college, and I saw that he was projected like late first. And I was like, how is this dude projected late first? He looks like mini Jokic. Just some of the footwork and moves and stuff. And, I mean, he showed that off, but just the whole translation problem for me. For some teams, I'd definitely take him in the top 10. For other teams, I would not. You know, like, we come up with big boards, but that's kind of like an average ranking for some teams. Like, for example, Jace Richardson, I'd have a top 12-ish grade on for the Orlando Magic. But for a team like Portland, if they don't trade Ant, I probably wouldn't take him in the top 20. So that's the thing to always remember about big boards is they're kind of like an average rating. And then mock drafts are more so looking at team needs. That's the difference between a big board and a mock draft. Because I might think somebody's like better than a lot of prospects, but if they're hard to fit into a team context and there's a lot of teams in that range that he doesn't fit, then that's how a guy falls. You know, he might be 10 on my big board, but I might also think he should be drafted in the 20s in extreme cases. I feel like Queen's kind of that guy. I think talent-wise, upside, all that, he's probably a top 10 player from this class, but I think a lot of teams just don't really make sense for him. He doesn't really make sense for them. So it's like trying to weigh that all together is the tricky thing with big boards. It's why my rankings will change a lot. But I think at this point he's definitely late lottery. I just probably would not take him for Portland.
Yeah.
I would take Maluach over him, but Maluach won't fall.
Mm-hmm.
CMB, I don't get it at all. He might be the best defender from this class. Like, he has potential to be an all-defensive level guy and also moves well, like, can put the ball on the floor, plays strong, quick, can pass a little bit. The shot looks completely broken, but he's just kind of a unique player.
And also has the production. Like,
yeah.
You can say you can't shoot all you, which you can't, but like he still produced at a super high level, scoring and dribbling, as you said, off the bounce and stuff like that.
See, this is a perfect prospect to bring up with the last point I just made. If you have a stretch five and a bunch of shooters, he makes a lot more sense for you, right? Like, he would make a ton of sense in OKC playing in lineups next to Chet and all those shooters. In the way they play defense, he would fit in right away. The thing is with this draft, I feel like OKC is going to hit a home run with the 15th pick, and a home run for them isn't the same as a home run for the Blazers. A home run for them is somebody that could just like replace one of their role players that might get paid, because ultimately they're going to have to deal with the luxury tax, their ownership that moved them to OKC, like their owners that have been there for a long time, they've never paid the tax, so if you're OKC, you're just looking to replenish what you have, assuming the role players that you have are going to get paid elsewhere. So I just feel like they're gonna identify, maybe it's Cedric Coward. If Cedric Coward goes there, I'm gonna be sick. It's gonna be like, dang, they just found their next Jalen Williams, is how it's gonna feel like to me. And he might not be as good as Jalen Williams, but like he would fit in as a role player really, really well there. Mm-hmm. Maybe right away. So, you know, like that's the thing. The Blazers have to become that team that's just like able to identify talent, draft talent if they're not drafting the top 10, and make sure they get guys that know how to play and fit their system and can be productive and that they can develop. Because that's the thing. I feel like for a lot of prospects, if they end up in OKC, they're going to have a lot better chance at developing than if they end up in, say, I don't know, Atlanta or, Chicago or Washington, right? I just trust the Thunder to find good players and then develop them. So they're picking at 15. Luckily, they're not picking in the lottery because they could have gotten the Sixers pick. But I kind of enjoy where the Blazers are drafting right now. You know, I wanted them to move up. I didn't want them to fall from 10 to 11. I wanted Knipple. But I feel like it's just there's so many names that the Blazers could potentially look at 11, and we have no idea who. And it hasn't really felt that way in the past 3 drafts. You know, it was a lot of buzz around Sharp at 7, but maybe they'd take Dyson Daniels or Mathurin if he fell there. And then, of course, it was like Scoot or Brandon Miller, probably Scoot. And then last year it was just Klingon. They really want Klingon. They love Klingon. They're trying to trade up for Klingon. Oh, Klingon fell to him. They might have had him number 1 on their board, right? This year it just feels different, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say the Blazers try to trade down. Let's say they like a lot of prospects in this range and they are willing to trade down the draft to get another asset and take one of many guys they might like. Well, there is a team with 4 first-round picks that is potentially looking for a lottery pick, and that team is the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets supposedly want another lottery pick. In this year's draft, they have the 8th pick, the 19th pick, the 26th pick, and the 27th pick. I assume they would be looking to consolidate a couple of those later first-round picks into a lottery pick. So if you're the Blazers, would you be looking at Brooklyn, where the Blazers would have to at least get back the 19th pick and then the 26th, 27th pick? You know, there's really not much difference there. Would 19 and 26 be enough to trade down from 11 in this draft for Portland, if that's what they wanted to do? Or would they need back more?
I think for them, that group of players we talked about might not be there at 19, so I think they probably need more. I think right now they value the quality of the 11th pick over the quantity of several other picks if it's back that far. Now, maybe if you're talking about like OKC or 16 or with Magic or something like that, it's a little different. But I don't know if they really care about 2 picks like in the later part of the first round as they do the 11th pick.
Yeah.
But in my mind, that's when you come in. The Nets are a team that could have a crap load of cap space this summer. Do you somehow work getting rid of Jeremy Grant's contract into this if they're that desperate? Kind of similar to what the Pistons did in the Jalen Duren situation, where they basically gave us Grant for free almost to basically clear up enough cap space to take on bad contracts from the Knicks so they could get a lottery pick. So is there a scenario where we might even just do it for like moving back from 11 to 19? We might not even get that second first round pick, but we get them to take on Grant. Or I know like you won't like this, Tori, but like Cam Johnson's a guy they've liked in the past. Like do they go after Cam Johnson with that 11th pick and add him to the mix instead of one of these other guys?
I mean, trading 11 for Cam Johnson would be idiotic. Like, even if it would probably be Jeremy Grant going back. But if you're Portland, why are you giving up a lottery pick for a guy who would be your 3rd best forward and come off the bench? You don't give up lottery picks for bench players.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because he's probably a starting level forward.
Yeah, but
who are you starting him over on our team? Yeah.
And especially for the role the Blazers would use him in, like, you can go find a shooter for much cheaper. You can go find somebody that will shoot the ball. Like, just draft Fleming then. You know, like, that's the thing, is Cam Johnson is talented, but he's not going to have the ball in his hands a ton in Portland. He's going to be put off the ball, and he's going to be a spot-up shooter, and he's a really good spot-up shooter. But it's like, if that's the role you're looking to fill, you don't trade the 11th pick for it, right? I just hate the idea of trading that pick for Cam Johnson. Now, if they're offering you 19 in Cam Johnson for 11 Jeremy Grant, yeah, I guess you do that because you're just trading down 8 spots to swap Grant out for Cam. But, like, straight up, the 11th pick for Cam, no. Now, if the Blazers didn't have 2 starting forwards and were a playoff team and needed shooting, then you can make the case, yeah, that trade makes a lot of sense because he's going to come in, start. He's, like, he's gotten a little better at making a play off the dribble. He's really, really good off ball, but, like, that's the thing in Brooklyn is he's gotten a little bit more responsibility on the ball, and it's driven his value up a little bit. But I think on any contending team, he's probably not going to be on the ball at all. Last year averaged 3.5 assists, 19 points, right? Took almost as many 2s as 3s, Yeah. Which for a player like him, he came into the league as just a 3-point guy. So
very consistent shooting.
It's just a team in Portland's position. Yeah, a team in Portland's position, it just doesn't really make sense.
Which is why they're going to do it.
Yeah, probably. But
that's the type of win now move I could see them, because they could justify it as that they needed shooting, and that they got a super dependable 3-point shooter who is an alright defender. And
then people are going to be like, wow, why are you hating them getting a good player? This is just like the Daddy trade. Yeah. Oh, I see it now. I absolutely do see it now. That'd be the least shocking trade. For sure. But it'd be a bad trade. And somebody can cue up this clip when people say, oh man, those Blazers Uprise guys are negative about everything Cronin does. Cue this clip up. Cam Johnson for the 11th pick. Even if you're getting off Grant's contract. Not the move. Not the move.
What if it was Cam Johnson 26 and 27 for Jeremy at 11?
I still wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I want the 19th pick if I'm trading 11, basically. Plain and simple. Now, let's say the Blazers were trying to get off Jeremy. If it's 11 and Jeremy for 19, I think maybe the Nets would take it, depending on how bad they really want the 11th pick. But I still think they might say no, and I think Portland would definitely not do it because that would look like, yeah, you're trading down 8 spots just to go off Grant when you give him that contract, and that just looks really bad. So let's say you try and get 26 if you're the Blazers with 19 for 11 and Grant just to get off of Grant, but make it look like, yeah, this is just a normal trade down, and we want to give Grant a new opportunity and create some flexibility. The Nets don't say yes to that. They just don't. Grant's too bad of a contract. So
I alluded to this with a hypothetical like a week or so ago, Tori. But before any of this stuff came out, I did hear look out for the Nets to make a trade with the Blazers. And it was because the Nets are making a push for Giannis.
Yeah.
And they might be one of the teams that has the ability to, I don't know, incentivize us to maybe give up some of those picks. Like maybe we give up one of them for the 8th pick. Maybe, Cam Johnson becomes part of the equation and we give up another one of the future Bucks picks for that. And then they somehow get some of the Bucks picks back. Yeah.
Do not give up a Bucks pick for Cam Johnson. But, like, if it's for 8 and Cam Johnson, all right, sure. Like, we can talk about that. But you do not straight up give up one of the Bucks picks, which could be potentially a number 1 overall pick for a role player that would come off your bench.
Mm-hmm. What if you get that? What if you didn't have to give up 11? You just added 8 and
for one of the Bucks picks?
Maybe for one of the Bucks picks, or
if it's like 20-30 and just giving them their swap rights back, sure. Maybe 20-28 and giving them their swap rights back because we might not even be able to swap. So,
Yeah.
Like, but I would not trade the 2029 best of Boston, Milwaukee, Portland for the 8th pick.
Yeah.
Just too much upside to that pick. And I don't want to give up a first to get that pick. Like, if we're really helping them out that way, then I just want to give swap rights back. But if you're talking about 8 plus, if we're giving the 2029 first back to Milwaukee, if we can get, one of Phoenix's first or just like a really good first on top of 8, sure, you do that. But like you absolutely hold Brooklyn over the coals if they're trying to trade for Giannis and they need your help because they're trying to get some of their picks, some of Milwaukee's picks back to Milwaukee. Now, they're going to go to New Orleans first. So who knows if they even come around. Maybe Milwaukee's just happy having a 2026, 2027, I don't know, and the cap space. And they just hope that they are good enough by 2028 where they don't give up really high picks and a swap to Portland. Or they hope that Portland's pick to Chicago can face that year. But, yeah. At the end of the day, those are high upside assets. You don't give those up for role players. That just limits your upside long term, and that limits your chance to be able to build a championship roster. But I
agree, but
You what?
I don't know. To me, I mean, maybe he's a year or two older than ideally they'd want, but to me, if you just think about if you're just looking at it from how can they achieve their goals of just wanting to make the playoffs or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I think adding Cam as their third forward, like that,
it's stupid.
I could just see it happening.
I can see it happening too. It's stupid. This is what we talked about last stream where I said I think they have the wrong mindset going into the offseason because I think they would consider something like that where they'd give up the upside of somebody you could draft for a known role player. Like, could you imagine it's like the Jalen Williams draft? Let's just say Jalen Williams is in this draft and we give up the right to draft him for Cam Johnson. And then 3-4 years from now, we can't even win a playoff series. And like, man, we really need a player like Jalen Williams.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you go get 75% of Cam Johnson where it's just a good 3-point shooting forward off the bench, like, those players are out there. You can find them. And if you're talking about somebody coming off the bench, you just go and you don't need a Cam Johnson off the bench. Sure, yeah, he'd be like maybe the best bench player in the league next year. But it's like you just go out there and get somebody that can shoot, fill that role at close to the level Cam Johnson can, and you're happy with it. But I could absolutely see them going into next year like, we have 2 stud setters at Ayton and Klingon. We have a perfect 3-guard lineup with Ant and Sharp and Scoot. And we have a perfect 3-forward lineup with Cam Johnson, Deddy, and Tamani. I would definitely watch out for the Nets and the Blazers making a trade. Who knows if it involves Cam Johnson? Because here's the thing. If they're trading for Giannis, Cam Johnson would fit really, really well next to Giannis.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like they would try and keep Cam Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see.
And then that leads into the other report this week. If you have a graphic for that. The Chris Paul thing.
Yep.
So I just lost the exact quote, darn it. Let me find this real quick.
Grant plus 11 for Kispert, Smart, and 18. That's interesting.
I mean, right? Kispert's on a poison pill. I don't know if that works.
I think it's close. It's not an insane difference, and you can always push it through in the new league year.
But then
it's $15 million for Kispert and like $20 million for Smart.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's $13 million for Kispert, so I think they're like identical to Grant pretty much.
All right, so this was from Sam Amico. Um, the Blazers are among the teams that could have interest in Chris Paul should he not return to the Spurs, a source told Hoops Wire. This is the part that I just when I read this part, Tori, I was like, Tori is cringing reading this line, as are a lot of us. But you in particular, I could see you just being totally triggered by this next line. And that's that Portland GM Joe Cronin has suggested he likes the roster as currently constructed.
I wouldn't expect any less from him.
Veteran guard to mentor Scoot Henderson.
I dropped a TikTok on this, by the way. If you don't follow our TikTok, there's a link in the description. Go follow our TikTok. I'm going to be doing more lead up to the draft original content over there. Chris Paul would make a ton of sense as a veteran mentor, but isn't that why you have Chauncey Billups as head coach?
He's only 8 years older.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like, when you have Chauncey as coach, do you need Chris Paul? I mean, I'm sure Chris Paul could help, so I wouldn't hate it. But, like, I think Chris Paul's going to want to still be in a rotation. And if he's not, he'll want to be on a contending team. Right? Like, I don't think he's going to want to come to Portland just to ride the bench and, like, probably lose in the play-in. Just to mentor Scoot. Unless the Blazers pay him handsomely, but is that really the best use of your full mid-level exception this offseason? Probably not.
Especially if you don't trade one of the guards.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you traded one of the guards, like, he might be able to get some PT here, and then I think the conversation is different. Well, like, trading one of the guards, meaning trading Anthony Simons.
Yeah. But Paul did play all 82 games last year.
Yeah.
Even though he's going to be 40 or is 40. I forget if he's had his birthday yet or not. But, like, I think he'd be a really good mentor, but I keep going back to this, Tori. We've had the 3 guards now for 2 years, right? Last year, before he got hurt, Brogdon was playing a decent amount instead of those guys. Like, you know what I mean?
Ant was hurt, yeah.
But I mean, even before Ant got hurt, Brogdon was still playing.
Ant got hurt in game 1.
No, I mean, like, even when he was like Ant was in the lineups, we still played Brogdon. It wasn't like he was the emergency guy in case someone got hurt or something. Like, he was going to play no matter what. And then I look at Banton this year and at the end of last year.
Yeah, with Banton, it's like he's kind of like
I know he's
forward.
taller. He's taller, yes.
So they can play 2 guards next to him, and yeah.
But, like, does this team actually think... Because I think they've needed a... Not necessarily as someone as good as Chris Paul, but they've needed a vet point guard. I call it the Corey Joseph of, you know, like, or like Earl Watson for Dame, you know, like that kind of vet. We do need that, an emergency third string, because, like, we don't really have, other than Scoot, like a true point guard.
I think Denny in a pinch, if guys are hurt, can play it. Like,
okay, once again, people can play it. I'm saying we don't have a true point guard, like, who's been around the league as a point guard, on the roster. So, I do think getting a vet point guard. Now, if Chris Paul wants to be that and he comes for cheap and doesn't mind if he doesn't play a whole lot or if at all, that's fine. I'm a little too worried he'd want to play too much.
Yeah, I don't think Chris Paul is coming to Portland to be a third string point guard.
Yeah.
Also, I don't trust Chauncey to not play him over freaking Scoot.
Oh, yeah. Right. See, that's what's going to happen.
We bring in Chris Paul to mentor Scoot, and then Scoot's getting like 10 minutes a game because Chris Paul's playing over him. Because Chauncey, you know, I'm sure Chauncey has a relationship with Chris Paul. Right? Didn't they play on the Clippers together?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there you go. There you go. Mm-hmm. I'm cool with Chris Paul if they trade Ant. I just don't expect the Blazers to ever do the smart thing with their guard rotation and figure anything out. Like, I don't know.
What would you do if we traded Anthony and then started Chris Paul over Scoot. That'd be funny. But if you could get Chris Paul to join, like that's the type of free agent acquisition that wouldn't really, like, I think it helps your team achieve what you're doing, and you're not like giving up an asset to get him either. So,
yeah, biannual exception, backup point guard, play 14 minutes a game. Scoot can play 34. There's your backup point after you trade Ant, and then you still have a full mid-level exception. Like, I am completely okay with that. Completely okay with that. Like, this offseason, I'd be trying to trade Ant to Orlando for the 16th pick and expires. Gary Harris and Cole Anthony, and then you try and flip Cole Anthony somewhere else. You get the 16th pick. You have 11 and 16. You add 2 more young players to this to basically end the rebuild, and then next year you're going for a play-in, right? If you make the playoffs, you're not going to have your pick, but at least you have a couple more good young prospects on your team coming out of this, right? You clear the way for Scoot. You sign Chris Paul to the biannual exception to be the backup point guard, be a mentor, whatever. Okay? You try and trade Ayton just for other salary pieces and like any value you can get, but like if you can get Gabe Vincent and he can be your third string point, you know, if Chris Paul takes an off night or is hurt or Scoot or whoever, right? If you could get like Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleba, and I don't really like Jared Vanderbilt's contract, but you know, like I don't know who another matching piece there would be for the Lakers. Like if you could just get that straight up for Ayton and clear the way for Klingon. You can let Robert Williams maybe be the backup center. Maybe you can trade him at the deadline. You get a good third string center. Maybe you draft a Rasheer Fleming at like 16 and draft like a Cedric Coward at 11. And then in free agency, the full mid-level exception, you maybe just try and get a more ready-to-play shooter that maybe like Coward could beat out if he's good enough going into his rookie year. But like if not, it's fine. You don't have to rely upon a rookie. That's your best way of going with the young timeline, committing to the young timeline, getting more young talent, but also still going for the playoffs. That's what I would.
I don't think they want to commit to it fully for some reason.
Commit to what?
The young timeline fully.
See, I don't even like the thing is you're committing to the young timeline, but it's not like you don't have vets.
No, I know what you're saying. Like I completely agree.
You're basically just kind of shuffling things around a little bit in a way that makes sense for the young timeline. But like that's the thing is, would they see it like that, or is it just like we like Ant and Grant and Ayton, even though I don't think those guys really helped them win a ton of games last year.
I think it's more of that.
It's just stupid. We'll see. We got less than a month till the draft. Of course, we're going to cover every rumor, every workout. We got you covered. We'll have a draft live stream, so make sure you put that on your calendar. June 25th, the first round. We will live stream it all. Same thing with the second round on June 26th, and then we'll stream free agency on June 30th. That's when it starts, and we will have that live stream. Eric, you better get work off for free agency. But yeah, we'll have you covered with all that. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like, all that good stuff. Anything else, Eric?
Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you have a good weekend. And of course, if anything happens or there's a really big rumor, maybe we'd go live. Well, Tori won't this weekend, but
yeah.
You know,
well, I might bring my mic down just in case,
but yeah, we'll cover anything big that happens from here on out the rest of the offseason. So
yep.
Stay tuned. But thanks everyone for watching tonight.
Yep. The channel turns 6 years old tomorrow. I made the channel on my birthday in 2019. So 6 years of Blazers Uprise. Does it feel like more or less?
It feels slightly less than that. It's like three or 4 years.
It feels like more. It feels like more, man. So many differences between now and like 5 years ago. So
yeah.
Yeah, I've been going back and watching really old streams from when I started the channel lately. It's kind of fun just to hear what I was talking about in a 2019 post game show. You know, like Anthony Simon's getting his first minutes, that sort of stuff. And then our shows went completely off the rails. It was a different type of show, let's just say that. So if you go back and watch an old stream, leave a comment in the comment section.
And how old did you turn when you started the channel?
23.
Or,
23 years old.
Oh, so you turned 29? I thought you turned 28.
No, I'm turned 29.
Nice.
29.
Almost 30.
Nope, but I'm not 30 yet. I'm still in my 20s.
Almost.
Still in my 20s. I might cry when I turn 30. Just kidding. It'll be my golden birthday or whatever it is. You know, because May 30th, whatever the phrase is for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, yeah. A lot's happened over the years, man. But maybe we'll finally get a team worth covering this season. You know, that would be cool. That'd be cool. But yeah, you know, we're just gonna keep building the platform. If you're new, if you're an OG, if you've followed me since the True Blazer fan days, appreciate you. Looking forward to the month of June. It's gonna be a big NBA offseason. Shams Charania has stated this might be the craziest NBA offseason ever. I have a feeling Joe Cronin will find a way to get a participation trophy out of it. He'll find a way to involve himself. Even if he's just swapping picks back to Milwaukee and getting different picks. It's always fun to talk about trades, talk about news, and that's right around the corner. So hit that bell button so you're notified when we go live. Join our Discord. We tag everybody when we go live in there, and you can also view our mock offseason stuff. Leave a like. And we're out of here. We will catch you again on Monday. We'll see if there's any other rumors to talk about. And until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!